party people? How you doing? Did you get a nice break? Oh my goodness. Do a little exercise. Wake yourself up. Yes. We about to get into it. We about to do some lighting. Bring it to the stage, Mr. Isaac Nelson. He's an amazing, amazing gaffer. He's been doing this for a long time. He's one of the best gaffers I've ever met. He lives right here in Boston. He lives here. He works here. He's all about this industry here. He's awesome. He does so many things. Gaffing is only one of them, but he's in this film industry and he's doing his thing. One quick thing I want to mention to you is that he's got a presentation where he's going to show you some kind of do-it-yourself type of things at home. So he's going to put it into a presentation, but he's also, I'm going to ask you to look up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. If you look at mine right now where I am, you'll see up in the top right corner the little arrows going in 4 directions. That's how you enlarge your screen so that you can see what is actually happening in that particular area or that particular screen itself. I'm going to encourage you to use that because he's going to be showing you some things where you may need to enlarge your screen because he's giving you a presentation or what have you. Okay. All right, everybody, if you are ready, Isaac, come on up on stage. And I'm going to shut up now. Yay. Hi, Isaac. Good to have you. Bye, everybody.
All right. Hey, everybody. Hi, Bethany. How are you? Good to see you here. So I'm a gaffer. I do lighting. So first slide of the presentation, I think Katarina has that up. Lighting for filmmaking. So we all know what lights are. It's, it's your desk lamp. It's your, there we go. It's a desk lamp. There are bigger lights for filmmaking. Maybe it's a window. Maybe it's just the sun. Maybe it's a street light out on the road. So all things that we can use to light our movies and our films to help tell the story better. Okay, so next slide, please, Katarina. Okay, so there's me. I'm Isaac Nelson. I'm a gaff. So this is just a little flow chart. You all are directors of your own films. You are all the creators and the writers, the auteurs. It would be the top bubble there, the flow chart, the director. The director works directly with the cinematographer, also called the director of photography. And then under the cinematographer, you have the camera department and the lighting department. So all of the bubbles in yellow are the lighting department. So obviously I would be the gaffer. The key grip is in charge of rigging things and shaping light. It's a very important feature of lighting, not just putting the lights up, but also shaping the light and modifying it. We're going to talk about that a lot today. And then under the gaffer, you have the electrics, who are the people that plug in the lights and turn it on and distribute the power. And then you have the grips under the key grip, who are the people that do the rigging, do the setting of the stands and the flags and the dollies and whatnot. Now, you're probably not even have maybe 7 people on your films. Maybe it's just you. Maybe it's you and a friend, a couple friends. But I just wanted to give you a little breakdown of what normal day work looks like for me. I'm working within this little ecosystem here. Okay, next slide, please. What is the goal of lighting in a movie? Question for you guys. I want to see what you guys have to say. You can put that in the general chat. About lighting, anything you do you think movies have the lighting that they do? What is the purpose of that? Awesome. An answer from Narissa. Okay. Cool. Create. Great. Mood. Very good. Contribute to the cause emotions. Yes, we'll talk about that. That's very
More answers. He's asking you a question. This isn't just, oh, he's asking. He wants you to answer it. I should see way more answers going on.
Yeah. Balance shades, great. Yep. Very important. Makes things look better. Yes. Very true. Yeah. Directs the audience's eye. That's a big bit. It's awesome. Yep. Setting. Yeah. Very good, Gina. So you can see that's a real thing. You know, if you're shooting at night, that's a real thing. Yeah, it makes an object have focus. Yep. We'll talk about maybe how camera and light both play into focus on an object. Awesome. Adding character. Yep. Yep. Seeing in the dark. Cool. All right. These are all great answers, everybody. These are, you guys know what lighting is for. You guys got it. Cool. So we can go to the next slide, Custer. Okay. So what is the, you guys said it all. It is the primary goal. Everything that you guys put into your movies, everything that anybody, Steven Spielberg or David Fincher, any great director, anything that you see in the frame or that you hear with your ears while you're watching, these are all in there to help tell the story. And if it's not in there, it's not telling the story. So everything from the lighting to the sounds you hear to even this little painting on this slide in the top of the frame. This is from No Country for Old Men. That's helping tell the story. So you got to be very deliberate with what you put in the frame, and lighting is part of that. So first point, it evokes emotion and psychological reactions from the audience. I think you guys all hit the nail on the head here. A lot of people said it, the mood or the style or the tone. You know, this frame, for example, is a very dark, moody frame, and it's a dark, moody movie if you guys have ever seen it. So it definitely, without even watching it or hearing it, you guys know this is a moody, this is a dark scene. And the lighting, just the single light source and the colors it creates, you know, it elicits that reaction immediately. It's not even, okay, you don't even say, what does this do? You just see it and you know, it's subconscious. Next point, it gives depth in the frame. Lighting is a great way to separate your actors from each other or from the background, or maybe, you know, you do a spotlight on one actor and nothing in the background, or you do the background is all lit up and they're in silhouette or they're backlit. So it really helps you take what is a two-dimensional frame. You know, there's a two-dimensional medium. It's just a screen that you're looking at, and it creates a sense of depth, a sense of 3D perspective. And third point, what's happening. So, you know, kind of with the same thing with the first point, dark lighting might tell you, oh, this is a, you know, this is a gritty, intense, emotional scene, whereas a very bright, even, high, sunny lighting might tell you, this is you know, this is going to be a little happier. We kind of done that already. And then the last point, it makes up for time of day differences. So we might assume with the frame that's on the slideshow right now that this was shot at night. And the actor has to turn on the lamp to see. I would bet that they actually shot this at about noon on their shooting day, and they're in a studio somewhere, and they turned off all the lights in the studio except for just that one lamp to give the idea that it's night. You know, they make it dark inside the room, and then they light up the set inside the room. So lighting is often used to, you know, make it look like it's night when it's day, or make it look like it's day when it's night. You know, a lot of movies take place all at night, but if you were to shoot them all at night, that'd be a really rough shooting schedule, because you'd have to, you know, go to work at 6 p.m. when the sun is setting. Nobody likes to do that. So lighting can be used to make up for time of day and story-based differences. Awesome. So, what does lighting tell you about this scene? This is from the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix. And again, you guys can type in the chat. What does the lighting here, what does it tell you about this scene? Yep. Morning, late afternoon, joyful. Yep. Daytime outside. Okay, great. Yep. It's warm. Daytime. Awesome. These are all great answers. So again, just a simple exercise. Yeah. Sun on the window, giving him a happy mood. So this is a happier, more melancholy scene in this movie, and you have the warm sunlight hitting his face. Just really gives this the warm tones, the warm colors there, and even the fact that he's near a window. Just the fact that we can see what we assume is real sunlight. These all are clues that it is a happy, relaxed Erica scene. So these are just some clues about lighting. And now, how is this different from the next slide? How does this frame feel to you? This is from Fight Club, Brad Pitt there. It's dark, scary, yep. It's kind of moody, kind of intense, yep, awesome. More tension, very good. So, I talked about this a little bit, but even subconsciously we know out, I mean, maybe you guys have seen these movies, maybe not, but we know just from these single frame what the lighting does between the two. It's aggressive, yeah. It's moody. So this, just subconsciously we know. Okay, awesome. These are great answers, everybody. Thank you for yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go over some lighting basics. Now this is kind of your toolbox of how you use light and how you is a big thing. There are endless what you can do with light. You'll be on a movie set and there will be 200 lights and they're all doing something different. But they all fall into these, each light is modified, or it's categories of direction, kind of the softness, hard quality of the light, the color, and the so go to direction. So this is from, I believe, Skyfall, or one of the recent Bond movies. Which direction is the light coming at? You guys don't need to answer for these because I'll go pretty quick. This is coming from directly in front of him. You can see there's a nose shadow. If you look right below it would be his right eye. You can see the light is coming from right in front of him. And then this is in contrast with a different shot from this movie. If we go to the next slide, if we go to the next, yeah, awesome. Thanks, Katarina. This is from the same movie, but you can see all the light is coming from behind the character. So direction is a big thing with lighting. Where it hits the character, is it coming from in front of them, so you can see a lot of their face? Is it coming from behind them, so their face is obscured, like that picture from Fight Club? Is it coming from the side? The next frame is from Moonlight. The next slide, you can see the light is coming straight from the side. It's like it's coming from outside. So one big thing to think about as you guys make these movies is where to light from. And I understand you guys, girls, people, you were all given a small little kind of pocket light like this to use with your smartphones or whatever you're using to shoot these. So I'm just going to demonstrate. I have a similar light. So you get lighting from the front. Maybe you want this really even, happy, nice look like this. But maybe you want it to be a little moodier, so you would go from the side. You know, you'd get some of this big shadow here on the nose, or maybe you want it to be super dramatic effect. You know, it's a webcam, you can't quite see, but so just for direction, it's very important to think about, you know, where is the light coming from, and how does that affect what you want to see with your characters, with your subjects. And this, you know, I keep saying subject or characters. Maybe it's just an object. You know, maybe there's a shoe or a car or a dog or a cat. You know, this doesn't just apply to people in your movies. I would assume your movies are mostly going to be about people. Most of them are, but you know, anything that you're going to light, any object or subject, anything, these lighting topics, these lighting kind of tools in your toolkit can be used on anything. Cool. Next slide, Katarina. Okay, so soft light. This is from Harry Potter. Very soft light. You can see there's almost no shadows here on Daniel Radcliffe's face. So soft light is very so I love having soft light because it makes my nose not look like it sticks out so much. And soft light can be achieved many different ways. If you know, if you're for yourself, or if you take selfies and post on social media. I have even had a little experience with hard versus soft light. You know, if it's direct sunlight, it might not look that good. Whereas if it's kind of ambient coming from a window, maybe it'll be a little softer and maybe look a little more flattering. As I said earlier, these are all storytelling. He's basically in heaven or sort of a purgatory space. So it's all very light and soft, and it's kind of a safe spot that he's in. So they wanted to tell that part of the story with the lighting by making it very soft on his face, rather than doing, angelic. Which, you know, he's basically in, or I think Dumbledore has died. Sorry, that's a spoiler for anybody, but that's one way that soft lighting can be used as a storytelling device. So you can think on that. You know, you can obviously soak it all in and think about how you want to use this for your own movies. So after this, we have hard light. This is from Schindler's List. You can see the telltale if you don't quite know if the lighting is hard or soft, and it can be very hard or it can be very soft, or it can be somewhere in the middle. It's often somewhere in the middle. The telltale is always the shadow on the nose, or the shadow maybe is coming from the chin down here. Actually, you can see the very defined shadow under his nose. Very hard light, and you can even see like on his ears, kind of a backlight thing him there, very hard. Schindler's List, very heavy movie if you haven't seen it. I don't remember the exact scene that this is in, but a lot of the lighting in this movie is hard. It's very hard, intense, from the Holocaust. So again, it's a storytelling device to help clue in the audience, hey, this is not to be taken lightly. This isn't literally. This is not a soft subject. This is very, very weighty, very heavy part of the movie. So that's hard versus soft light. You know, we'll go into this later and how to do all this. I just want to explain the concepts first, and then we'll talk about how to actually do it. So lighting basics number 3 would be color. This is from Breaking Bad with Walter White. The lighting here is very warm. He's sitting at his kitchen table. There's just that nice kind of the kitchen chandelier sort of thing hanging over him. And color is an interesting one because it can be It can be the lighting creating color. It can also be the things in the frame, the mise en scène, so to speak, creating the color. And those often interact with each other to kind of complement each other. So, you know, he's wearing a red shirt, he's drinking red wine or grape juice or something, and we got the nice warm wood tones behind him. So that's, you know, that's not lighting, that's just kind of production design. The interior, homey sort of feeling light. So, you know, he's at home in this scene. Again, I watched the show. I don't remember this exact moment, but, you know, creating a warm, welcoming environment for him. I think he's sitting at the table with his kids and his wife in the movie, or in the show. So this, you know, this is kind of warm light, which creates that kind of, you know, that nice warm feeling. In contrast to that, we have our next slide, and this is cooler lighting. This is from Shining, Jack Nicholson. You know, this is at the end of the movie. He's outside in a snowstorm, and you can see, you know, we know that these are trees behind him with snow on them, but it looks blue or it looks green. It's almost a teal color. It's because they chose to light it in this very cold, kind of austere color to, you know, help inform the viewer that, hey, he's outside in a snowstorm in Colorado. It's cold. It's not nice. And they went with a little warmer, a little orangey tone on his face there. If you go crazy with your colors, you know, your blues or your reds on somebody's face, you start to not be able to tell the sound very well. If you overdo it, which again can be for dramatic effect, can be part of your story, but especially with the background here, they really wanted to cool it down. And this, you know, this is just kind of cold lighting. You know, he's shivering in the scene, and the light tells you that. So our next slide, this is from Atomic Blonde. This is what we call she has Caucasian skin, but for effect, they chose to do these blues and pinks. So obviously, this, you know, I just said on the last slide that you don't want to overdo it, unless you do want to overdo it. All these choices need to be deliberate so that you can help tell the story. But you know, the viewer knows she doesn't have quite as blue of skin. But with your color in your films, try to make the choice deliberate, because it's a subconscious thing, but it'll really tell the audience a lot about what's happening. Cool. Go to the next slide, Katerina. Okay, so texture. Texture is often overlooked in lighting. Texture is it's kind of hard and soft a lot of the time. So you can see in this, I forgot what movie this was from, Double Indemnity, I think, but you can see the shades in the background. We think that there's a street light or there's daylight, sunlight hitting the background behind them, creating kind of that very classic noir film trope of having the, you know, the slashes from the shade. Textured light can be used on subjects' faces. It's pretty hard to do, especially when you're working on a budget, because it often requires bright lights from really far away. But yeah, example of that with my little light here in a minute. Yeah, texture is often overlooked, and it's one of my things to do, especially with blinds or with tree branches. Beautiful texture on the subject's face and in the background. And it's a great way if you don't have the freedom to use color or to use set design to help tell the story. If your location or your budget or whatever your constraints are don't allow for that, texture with light is a great kind of I'm not going to say free, because obviously, you know, lights are, you got to rent them and whatnot, but it's a great way to kind of put something in there that doesn't really exist. You know, you put your own texture in there when the lights or when the other constraints exist. So the next slide is also some texture. This is from Rashomon. You can see it looks like there's sunlight going through some trees, hitting his face. What Bethany is saying in the chat is true. She put cookies in quote. That's the term for it. It's called a cucaloris is the film term, or a branchaloris is with a branch. You literally take a tree branch. I've seen people cut these off trees on set, and then you shine light through it, so you get this effect like we have on the actor's face here. Cool. So that's just a little about texture. Texture is pretty tough, but it can be really fun. It's sometimes it's a fun gag. Sometimes it really will sell a location or a lighting scenario. Direction, heart rates, color, and then texture are kind of the four main things that I think about when I'm lighting a scene. Hopefully that all makes sense. I can go over stuff at the end if there's anything that is not clear. So 3-point lighting is your very basic, very standard how to make somebody look good lighting setup. And the one thing this diagram, you got to pretend that the camera is in front of the desk and that the camera is facing the talent here. Because if you put the camera somewhere else, the 3 points would all be changed and this wouldn't make sense. So pretend that there's a camera facing our subject at the bottom of this diagram, pointing up, or pointing, you know, in real life it'd be pointing forward, just how my camera is facing me here at a desk. So you can see the three lights labeled there: key light, fill light, and backlight. Those are the 3 points, the three, you know, points or a light source. Basically, it's 3 lighting is kind of what they're saying. This is your very basic. You're going to hear this anytime anybody is lighting. They're going to maybe not say this is 3-point lighting, but they will reference, definitely a key light is always referenced, and then a fill light, and then a backlight or a hair light. The terms are used interchangeably. Cool. So the key light is our next slide. We can go back just to 3-point lighting slide. I think I mixed up my slide a little bit. So I'll talk with this diagram. I think I listed elsewhere. Actually, you know what, Katrina, can we go about 4 slides forward? I don't have the slide. I think, yeah, okay, so here we go. This is what I meant to have next. So the key light, remember that's the one in the bottom right of this picture. It's always the main source on the subject. That's going to be the brightest light. It's the main direction you're going to see of lighting. So, you know, for me, example, the lighting's coming from on me right here. The lighting is coming from my right side. So the key light from me, which is my desk lamp here, is keying light. It's usually it has to be the brightest light. If your fill light is brighter than your key light, then your fill light is your key light, and they get switched. So it's always your brightest light. It's going to be the main thing creating sort of shape on the face, hard or soft. The key light was super soft in that Harry Potter frame that I showed. you know, there was almost no shadow on his nose, but then in the James Bond one with Daniel Craig, there was really aggressive shadow. It almost, you know, obscured his whole face. Both key lights that they were using, and they were both in. So after the key light, we have the fill light on the next. So it's always across camera from the key. And if we imagine that the camera is at the bottom of this diagram, the key light will be on one side of the camera. The purpose is to the side of the face. So if you have one bright light hitting one side of the face, and then you have to have, maybe you'd want to have a fill light coming in on the other side. And sometimes the fill light is a light. You have lights. Sometimes you would use a, you know, a bounce. You would just, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, the lighting modifying thing, but you would bounce your key light back at your subject. So you kind of have the light going one way and then it comes back the other way. It has to be weaker than the key. Otherwise, you know, whatever is your key light. So it's always weaker than the key. It can be hard or soft. Again, usually fill light tends to be softer than the key light because it's filling in some of the shadows created on the, you know, the opposite of the face. You want to fill that in to look a little more flattering. And then in the 3-point lighting setup is the hair light, the backlight. It's always behind the subject. If you have, say, you have a subject with dark hair and there's a dark background, you might not even be able to tell where the background begins. But if you put a light behind them, you know, you can create separation here. You can, with doing this right now, you can definitely see, you know, the difference between my hair and my ceiling. Obviously, the colors themselves are very different. But the main point of the backlight or the hair light, great separation. It'll often hit the back of the head is kind of the main point. We can also hit the shoulder, on the back of the ear. Can look. If you look back at that, you don't have to change the slide, Katarina, but that picture of Brad Pitt from Fight Club has a really aggressive backlight hitting him. It actually kind of highlights his cheekbone a little bit, creates separation. One thing to be aware of with backlights is if they're too strong, or especially if your subject has, you know, really long flowing hair, if they have kind of, you know, bigger, thicker hair, is that it can create a halo effect, and you look like an angel, for better or for worse. You know, done dramatically by the filmmaker. Sometimes you set up your hair light and then you look at the where's Jesus, where's Gabriel. They look like they look like an angel, which might not be part of your story. So it's definitely good to create separation. Be careful with backlights so you don't create. I made that mistake before. Luckily, the who was also the director kind of liked it. He thought it made, I thought it made him look a little silly, but he thought it was great, so I just left it. But that's 3-point lighting. Some variation of this is used almost all the time, whether it's just a key light or a key and a backlight, or all three. And sometimes you'll have 2 backlights. Sometimes you'll have you know, another fill light because you want to get like a little color coming in, you know, a different color than your other lights coming in on the one side. But definitely the terms key, fill, and backlight or hair light are light isn't explicitly said. Cool. So let's go back. Yeah, this is great. So key lighting. This is Harry Potter again. So the terms high key, a little first. the key light is always going to be the strongest. So high key doesn't mean the key overwhelms the fill light. You can always think the easiest way to think about it is high lighting and low fill lighting. The terminology is a little confusing. The high key and the low key, it's an old school term. But there's basically no difference in level on either side of Daniel Radcliffe's face here. And this is very high fill lighting. In fact, if you had to ask me which side is the fill light on, I might say it's on his left, on the right side of the frame. But also, it's basically the same brightness as the right side of his frame. So this is a very even lighting. And you can see there's almost no nose shadow, very little chin shadow happening here, which is, again, the nose shadow and the chin shadow are always your giveaways as to like lighting is, so like what tools they've used out of the toolbox. And then you have low key lighting or low fill lighting. You can see there, this is just one light on Daniel Craig's face here. There's a really aggressive shadow on his nose. The side of his face just falls into. There's no separation between the background and where the background begins. Obviously, low key lighting is much more dramatic than high key lighting. Use this discretion. It's less flattering. James Bond is a very gritty character, gritty movie, so I can do the lighting to drum up the. But in general, to make your subjects look a little more flattered, high key lighting is better. Cool. We can go to the next. Okay, so how do we do it? So I've talked about all this for a little bit now. We all have our little lights, and these are all frames from movies, and they have hundreds of different lights on set, and they're all really big, and they have their own generators and stuff. But we don't have those, so I don't want to make it seem like any of these concepts can only be used when you have a big budget, or when you have 10 lights, or when you have 100 lights, because all of these concepts, all of these tools, all of these different ways of modifying light can be done even with your iPhone flashlight, or even with your filmmaking light that we have here. So now I'm going to talk about the how to do it. So diffusing light is putting something transparent to make that light softer. Hard light is a result of a very small light source. So kind of like flashlight creates really dramatic at night, or how like a car headlight is effectively a very small source. Diffusing is a way to make that light effectively bigger, because the light lights up the diffusion, which then lights the subject with a bigger, more scaled up version. So this is diffusing light is a way to create soft light. It's pretty standard. It's usually your first, your go for creating soft light. So these pictures here are from something that I shot. I gaffed. I was the cinematographer and the gaffer on this one. I was playing one-man band. And you can see the lighting is very soft on this woman. And if you look on the picture of my camera, the left, and I think if you go to the next slide, Katerina, you can't actually see the light, but that white oval on the right side of the picture, yeah, right there, that is a piece of pop-up diffusion. And then I have a little LED, just a little bit bigger than what we have ourselves, shining through that. And it created this really nice soft light on her face. It was very flattering. This was for a corporate video where they wanted to look good for their clients, to sell more product. So you can see there's not much shadow on the opposite side of her face. And so even, you know, how do we do this ourselves? So I have a piece of diffusion here. Thanks, Katerina. This is really, guys, this is just glorified wax paper or tracing paper, or even tissue paper, like you get in like a gift bag, can be used for this. So you can see this is it goes through it, and I'm just gonna show it here. Effect. See. On my chin, and I'm trying to do this all at once. I put my diffusion in front of it. Hold on. So I put my diffusion in front of it, and all of a sudden those shadows are a little bit softer. And this what I'm holding is actual filmmaking diffusion, but you could do this with wax paper, tracing paper, tissue paper, and gift wrap, even a shower curtain. I've seen gaffers and cinematographers take shower curtains. If we're shooting in, they'll take the shower curtain out of the bathroom and use that as diffusion because it was better than what they had. So you can see this light is a little more flattering on me now than just, you know, this is pretty aggressive. You can see the difference in light levels between the two sides of my face. It's a very strong difference here, but then I go behind my diffusion, and you know, those are a little more even, a little more flattering. Again, the webcam is not a great way to show this, but it'll show it better on your cameras and your smartphone. So diffusing light is one really easy way to make stuff look better. And you can use anything that's translucent. Again, you know, they have 40-foot by 40-foot, very specific thickness diffusion on movies, but really it's just glorified wax paper. Cool. So our next tip or trick we have here, thanks Katerina, is bouncing light. Very flattering, and even you can see on the couch she's sitting on, it's very soft. On the background, it's very soft. And if you look at that picture with the little couch, that's my arm. I took that picture, and that's a piece of. It's called beadboard. It is literally just foam in Home Depot. That's all that is, and that is used. That is the standard on $1 million movies, on $10 million movies, and on good stuff, because you can literally just go to the hardware store and buy it, and it's durable, and there's make something better than that. They don't even make a better version of it because Home Depot has the best version already. So you can see in that picture, there's the light is on that little stand, and it's bouncing into the beadboard, or just the bounce, and then it's hitting the actress, and it's creating this very soft, very flattering light. You know, you can't see it super well, but there's no aggressive shadow. And if you have a piece of beadboard like that, and it's cut down to just like a 2-foot or 18-inch square, people will call it a pizza box, because literally you take a pizza box and you take light and you bounce it off the pizza box. Me up, and it's pretty soft. It's pretty flattering. You know, there's very little happening. You know, the light is facing away from me. You can see I have it like this. It's facing away from me and just bouncing back. So instead of my light source being this big, it bounces this big. And it's all very aggressive, and blinding myself. So bouncing light is a great trick. Probably the cheapest, easiest, even easier than diffusing light. The the easiest way to do it. So literally, pizza boxes, white walls, pieces of paper, bed sheets, white ceilings, pieces of poster board, anything that's white or maybe very light gray or light blue, light yellow, anything that will reflect really well. Just shoot your light, so point your light away from your subject. Am I lagging? So just point your light at the subject and put it facing back at your subject. I don't know how much I was lagging there. Thanks for pointing that out, Wilmer. I'll just show this again. So my light facing away from me, bouncing off pizza box here, and then the light bounces back. Angle in equals angle out, so it's coming right back at me. And it's this pretty flattering, soft light here. Awesome. So our next tip or trick is it's called flagging light or blocking light. So you have your lights and you have them pointed wherever they are, but maybe you don't want light in a specific spot. And it's a little tough to show you just with light. Maybe I can do it if I'm pointing here and then I hold something up to block it. Maybe it only hits one side of my face as opposed to but that's called flagging a light. It's blocking a light, and this is the easiest thing to do. You can use a door frame or a door, even have somebody stand in front of the light if you don't want it to hit a certain part of the scene. This might be a little overkill, the tiny lights that we have, but I'll just show you the example. This is a frame from something I shot recently, and I didn't want my light. So you can see if you look at the picture on the left, you can see I am both bouncing, diffusing, and flagging my light all at once. But I didn't want that light to create a really aggressive edge on the inside of this window. The light is you can see the actress's feet there. And I think, Katarina, if you go to the next slide, I have it blown up. You can see the actress's feet and the window. And if I had just left everything how it was, the inside of that window would have had this really glowy, bright edge. And I didn't want that. So the thing I drew the yellow square around are just these little frames of black fabric, like a blackout curtain that no light will get through it. So I was just flagging the light off the window because I didn't want it to look like I had lit it. I wanted it to look pretty natural, but I still wanted the light to hit the actress from inside the house. So that's flagging light. It's used with bigger lights, but it's still to have in your toolkit. So we can go to our next slide. You can see frame. So if there's a lamp behind a subject that's turned on, that's a practical light. You can see the string lights that we have on the frame here are practical lights. The covers on the right picture is funny. She's holding an iPad, which is a practical light because you know that she's holding. It is lighting her sitting in bed. So that's an instance where a practical is the key light. And once you have some lighting scenarios under your belt, you can start using practicals as key lights to great effect. It's a great way to just use less lights. Yeah, so those are practicals. They're pretty self-explanatory. The big thing there is to not let them be so bright that they will kind of take away from your other lighting. With these people sitting on their patio watching a movie, if these string lights were so bright that my key light had to compete with it, it wouldn't look as good because then there would be light coming from everywhere. Whereas I had the light coming from behind the projector. and the practical lights are just in there for effect. Practicals are pretty easy. You just, if there's a candle in shot, maybe the lamp, maybe you turn the lamp on. I love lighting candles if they're in frame. If there are candles in frame that aren't lit, it drives me crazy. It's one of my pet peeves as a cinematographer and as a gaffer. I was filming in the Old North Church recently up in the North End, the historic church, and I said, "Hey guys, we need to light these candles." And everybody kind of looked at each other and they're like, "Okay, I guess we need to light these candles." In the organ in the church. Cool. So next slide, we have so natural light. So all of these are lighting techniques, but the sun is the biggest light source we're ever going to get, the brightest light source we're ever going to get, and it can be used to great effect. Some of these techniques about bounding light, diffusing light, flagging light can be used really effectively if you just block out the sun. With subject, I did have behind them, but it didn't do anything. Just pretend that that little light on the stand back there behind the bench is not there. The sun was basically coming from behind them, from behind the bench, and then you can see in that picture there's a grip is holding a silver reflector that's kind of right next to the camera in front of the two actors, and bounced a little bit. It's a cloudy day, but it bounced a little bit of the sunlight back at them, and we really didn't do any lighting on this. Images just straight out of that camera, and ended up looking. It looks pretty good. It looks really natural. It looks like day, but we got a little more return, a little more bounce back at their faces and kind of under their chin, scatter them a little bit. So it looked really good. So I've been talking about using lights, but the sun really, if you have access to the sun, as long as you can modify it a little bit, the sun can be a great key source or fill source. You should definitely overpower the sun because you really can't do that very well. But you can modify the sun and use it to your advantage. Awesome. Trying to show you the bounce a little bit better. But that's just the same thing. Cool. So colored gels. Gels are a transparent plastic that will change the light's color. Like some red gel here. You can see, this is just the regular kind of white color of this light, and then I put the red gel in front of it, and now I look like I'm in a dark room or something. Very old school term. You guys probably haven't. Nobody really uses dark rooms anymore. So this is actual filmmaking thing here. Anything that's transparent and colored can be used as a gel. Good luck with like a juice pitcher, like a plastic piece, like a plastic dish. Some of those will be colored and will be like transparent in a color. And if you just put that over a light bulb, it will change the color of that light bulb and still let the light through. There aren't too many kind of naturally occurring household items that can be used as gels, but just be sure, or even like a Sprite bottle, is green. Just cut a Sprite bottle and put it over a light bulb. The trick with gelling anything, and even with like real movie gels, is that if they get too close to a light that's really hot, the gel will burn, or for example, a Sprite bottle might melt. So light in front of it, if using just a household light bulb, Wilmer, a colored cup, it can, you don't want to melt your cup onto your light bulb because then you've ruined your cup and your light bulb. But everybody figures that one out the hard way. a light bulb once. So yeah, that's our coloring lights. Okay, and now motivated lighting. I touched on this a little bit earlier. This is the hardest thing to do as a gaffer or as a cinematographer, is motivating your light. Lights must be motivated by a naturally occurring source, whether it's the sun, the moon, a window, whatever it is. The light hitting the subject needs to look like it's coming from something believable. Unmotivated lighting looks fake and takes the viewer out of the experience. You know, if you have somebody sitting outside, like on that last thing that I just showed, just sitting at a bench in a park, and then they have a really bright red light hitting them from one side, you can be like, what is that light? You know, maybe it's an ambulance parked there with its flashing light, but, you know, probably not. Lights need to be coming from, need to be motivated by a believable source. So whether that's, you know, again, the sun, the moon, window, whatever it is, the sun might not actually be the key light, but your key light needs to look like it's the sun. And this is the really hard thing that, you know, gaffers and cinematographers are always striving towards and always trying to do just the way. Thought is, okay, how are we motivating the lighting? It's not what side are we gonna put the key light on, what side are we gonna put the fill light on. It's just, okay, we have a window in the background that can be motivates our backlight, and maybe we have a window out of frame in the foreground shot. Yeah, Stephen, you can even color a light bulb with a marker. That's true. I've never done that, but that's great. I think I've seen people spray paint light bulbs. You know, just a little bit of spray paint, don't totally cover it, but a lot of ways you can change the color. It looks so natural is the best thing a gaffer can ever hear. Usually an actor or a client, for example, you know, yeah, if you're shooting for like an ad agency, you know, somebody will walk onto set and, oh, this looks so natural when they see the actor in the location. That's the best thing you can ever hear, because it means that your lighting sources are motivated. Every time I get told that, I know that I've done my job and I've done it for the day. But motivated lighting is tricky. You can see here, this was from Harry Potter again, had some great cinematography, some great gaffing. Dumbledore and Harry are standing outside in what the viewer believes to be moonlight, but you can see there's the light above them, you know, creating a very toppy source, of a light source from on top of them that we don't think, oh, what is this? You just see it and they're outside at night and you're like, oh, it's moonlight. And you can see the big lights in the background over the houses there also light those up looking like moonlight. So that's, you know, one example. I don't remember what movie this is from, but these lights you can see are rigged to the top of the car, and they're lights going by. So, you know, the street light when you're driving is usually to the side of you and it's kind of up higher. So these lights are to the side and up. So it's coming in the window kind of at an angle the street light would. Yeah, sometimes edit light. They definitely edit, you know, the contrast levels and the brightness. They kind of play with the image, kind of, you know, the levels of the image, the color and the contrast and whatnot. And sometimes they'll kind of composite, kind of fake light into it. That doesn't happen as much with live action stuff. It's a huge thing in animation. Animation has these same concepts as well nowadays because it's all three-dimensional. But yeah, motivated lighting is tough. Everybody's always kind of striving towards motivated lighting, but it's rare that it's every single light is fully motivated. Yes, Wilmer, flashlight can definitely be used. Flashlights are great, just bright little lights that you can use to light something up. They're also great to have, in the frame as a practical. It's fun to shine them at the lens because you get fun, kind of J.J. Abrams lens flares sometimes. But any light you have, whether it's a lamp or a flashlight or car headlights or even your smartphone flashlight, can all be used. Lights, Katrina, if we go back maybe 10 or 12 slides, I had 3 slides about different types of lights that I'll go over just a sec. Yeah, cool. So these are different types of lights. These are usually on movies, but I just want you guys to have a little understanding of what they are. Yeah, use what you have and make it work. So maybe this is a little beyond what you guys would would maybe have as like a hands-on. Are familiar with the terms if you ever get exposure to it. So pictures are like traditional movie lights with the very orangey sort of warm bulb. That's like a desk lamp. Most household light bulbs are a little different now. They've changed, but traditional tungsten filament. They get really hot. They can melt just about anything. I've seen people turn them on just to warm up their hands because they really get to be hundreds of degrees. If it's like a cold shoot, you just turn one on and point it, warm up your hands. They draw a lot of energy, which is why they aren't used too much anymore. I still see them out and about a little bit, but they do draw a lot of electricity, and they get really hot. And then you have to wear. I have special gloves, 450 degree rated heat insulated gloves so that I can like move the light. After that, lights, same thing that maybe you buy, people doing behind their TVs. For a lot of their household light bulbs now are actually LEDs inside of a bulb. The cool thing about LED lights is that they can change color. Some of you might have the little lights with the remote where you can change the color of your bedroom. It's kind of fun. It's just a big glorified version of that on a film set. They don't draw they draw very little electricity, very little power, which is really nice. And on big film sets, they actually will control them iPad. So you put the light up and then you do the brightness and the color from an iPad because they're so smart. They're basically little computers built into the back of the light. And most of what I work with in this day and age in 2021 are mostly LED lights. And then the last type of lighting that's used a lot would be an HMI. It's on the next slide. They're big. Yeah. Can we see the next slide, Katrina? So an HMI light it looks like a tungsten light. Yeah, just like that. They're super, super bright. It's actually a little bit of plasma that's ignited inside a bulb. And they're super bright. And if you look at one without the proper filters and protections, it'll actually like break. However, they're super powerful. So you can see in this shot, they're creating sunlight with this HMI, just shooting it down over this little bizarre market kind of thing. But again, different types of lights might be a little high level. What about the lights that hang, like, for example, lights off the room? Yeah, spotlights. Yep, spotlights are used a lot, actually, both in theater, where they're commonplace, and in painting. So spotlights are usually, it's a tungsten light, so it's a regular light bulb inside kind of this tube that is effectively a lens that just magnifies the light really bright in a really small beam. So you could spotlight somebody from across a, from the back of a theater to the front of the theater on the stage. But those are used a lot in filmmaking as well, because they are they're pretty cheap to buy or to rent, and then you can you can light people from really far away, or you can just a little bit of light into a space that you don't have good access to. But yeah, good question, Stephen. Those are used a lot. Okay, that is everything I have to tell you today about lighting. What questions do you all have? Do you have any questions? Anything about lighting or work? Yeah, fire away. Don't bite. Ask whatever you want. Don't bite. Oh, somebody asked a question. There we go. What about flare? Yeah, lens flares. Lens flares are cool. Lens flares look good. It's got the story. So I can create a little. See there. This is just my phone. Just light. You can see I'm a little bit of a flare. So flaring is it's effectively the light source hitting the lens. So if you have like a camera lens here, when the light hits it at an angle, the light doesn't go into it and hits this to hit the sensor. It'll actually just kind of go sideways and bounce across the lens. So kind of like this from the side, it creates a flare rather than just straight through it and hitting the actual sensor behind the lens. So yeah, lens flare basically point a light at the right angle. Okay, am I one man? Sometimes I'm a one-man band. Sometimes I'm working with 20 other people. I work totally freelance. I don't work for any specific company. So yes, I do a lot of my own lighting by myself. I have the back of my car is filled up to the roof with bounce boards and lights because I do work by myself a lot. It's definitely helpful, but yes, you can definitely do some effective lighting by yourself. Could you use the LED that changed with the remote as lighting for a shot? You can definitely do that for lighting for a shot. Those are great. And if you peel those off your ceiling, if that's where you have them, if you actually wrap those around a pizza box, it'll shoot forward and then it'll actually bounce back at the pizza box or at a piece of white cardboard. And that can be a really nice, really easy to move mobile course. And then you can do different colors with it, which is really fun. Do people still use light sources if they're filming outside during the day? Yes, sometimes. Sometimes the sun, if it's a sunny day, middle of the summer, the sun's so bright that you would have to put up, like that episode of The Simpsons, just a huge thing to block it. So usually you want to use the sun to your advantage. But if you have really powerful lights and you get them close enough to your actors, you can actually complement the sunlight with other lights. But people will very commonly diffuse sunlight. Almost every time somebody's shooting in sunlight, they'll put up a big piece of diffusion like the wax paper above them. So the sun, the single point source spreads out a little bit more. Why does the image become so much more clear when you own footage once you add good light? Great question. So why does cell phone footage look better with good lighting? So any video, whether it's on a nice camera or if it's on your cell phone, the video needs to be exposed properly. I don't know if you guys have talked about exposure much, but basically the camera knows how bright it wants to be, and at the proper exposure, the colors are their most saturated, which is what looks the best. That's where like, the red of my lips or like the green of my eyes would really come through as that color, rather than being, if it's too dark, the camera just doesn't know quite what color of red to do for my lips or what color of green to show for my eyes. But that's a great question. Why is because cameras like light, and they work best when they have good lighting. So if you've ever tried to take a picture on your smartphone, like in the dark, or in very low lighting, like in the evening, it doesn't look that good. Whereas if you do it during the day, like right now, if you went outside and took it in the sunlight, it would look good because the colors would get more saturated. What is the benefit of having different color reflectors? Okay, so that's, yeah, a lot of reflectors will have like a silver side or a gold side. And if your light is bouncing off your reflector, the light then takes on the color of the reflector. So maybe your sunlight is 600 Kelvin or something. You want it to be a little bit warm. The sunlight is actually kind of blue, even though we think of the sun as yellow, it's actually kind of blue. Flash. So you can, so instead of putting a gel in front of them, you can something colored and then have it change color bounces back. So if you were to bounce light off, let's say you have a wall that's pink and blue, if you off a blue, the bounced light will actually be blue rather than. Does smoke change? So smoke is kind of a texture modifier. So we've probably seen movies where there's a house fire or something, or there's smoke coming out of a vent in the subway. It doesn't change the color of the light, but it can act as diffusion to make the light softer. For effect, yes, like Nurse is saying, it's actually haze from a machine. So it can be used light to make it softer and a little more flattering, and it can also just do texture up the haze to get some texture, to get some depth, to get some kind of tactile imagery going. But like Nurse said, it's not actually fire. Please don't burn anything to create smoke. If anything, turn your shower on really hot and let some of that work. Yeah, cool. Street lights are used in movies for a scene sometimes when they stand under it. You think that's a good lighting source? Yes, I love using streetlights as a lighting source, as kind of a practical or a naturally occurring light. They're bright enough to be able to see, to drive, and walk around at night. So they're usually close to being bright enough for a cell phone quite as much. If you find a really bright one and stand right under it, it can work. But yeah, it's a very top-down source, which if you know that it's a street light is okay. It's motivated by that street light to be top-down. They're usually not quite bright enough to diffuse or to bounce, but you can definitely use them kind of as a practical. Have you ever used your iPhone for lighting or to diffuse something? Yes, in some instances, when I don't have other lights, I have used my iPhone. You can do it. They're not, not super bright unless it's super dark out and you're trying to, use it as something. You can sort of bounce it off a piece of paper a little bit, but you have to be really close to actually get the effect because this light isn't that bright. They're fun to use as a practical to like have somebody running around and like, you actually see it like a flashlight. But what wouldn't I recommend doing in terms of lighting? Okay, so trick question. There is no bad lighting. There's just bad lighting at the wrong time. That's everything. What is bad lighting in one scene might be good lighting in another scene, and vice versa. I will say some pet peeves of mine, like I said earlier, if there are candles or lamps that aren't lit when they could be, that's one thing I don't like. I wouldn't put your key light directly behind the camera. So you can see my light is right on top of my webcam here. And it's, it looks okay, but it's just bright and the light is just kind of puking light at me. It creates this really aggressive shadow down here. I kind of look like I have a double chin. I wouldn't put your light directly behind the camera. Always have it at least, I'd say maybe 30 degrees to the side. You just get a little more depth on the face that way, and the shadows are a little more flattering. And putting your key light right behind your camera is kind of a telltale sign that you don't actually kind of know what you're doing. But again, in some situations, it calls for it. But what do you think people should do to get the best lighting? Download the slideshow and have it on your phone on set. No. Yeah, just try things out. It's always practice makes perfect. You got to try out different techniques. Maybe not even for a film. Maybe you say, okay, I want to see what diffusion looks like. So you try diffusing something, or you say, I want to try bouncing something. Just play around with it, see how it works. You can also look for examples of kind of naturally occurring lighting concepts just out in the world. Like if you walk around, you'll see a lot of reflecting in different ways. So maybe the sunlight is hitting you from the front, but then you get light reflecting off a building hitting you from the back, and you can say, oh, I have a key light and a hair light. Take a picture so you know what that looks like, so you have a reference of, okay, this is what a sunlight key and a reflected backlight looks like. Or maybe, yesterday it was super hazy outside because of the wildfires. So the sunlight in the evening actually looked really nice because it had, 3,000 miles plus of basically haze, like we were saying earlier, basically haze between the light source, the sun, and my face. So it had all of that time to diffuse and spread out, and it actually looked decent just from the sun yesterday. So yeah, just to get better, just practice makes perfect.
Hi, everybody. All right. I hate to stop all of the questions because I know people got other things. We'll have time for one more. The question is, when they're shooting scenes in a movie and change camera angles, how does the light change angles, or does it stay the same?
Yeah. So yeah, usually you have to change it just to make it a little more flattering, or to make it match the other shots. But in general, you can often leave it in the same spot, and then just tweak it a little bit. Maybe when you get closer with the camera, you dim the light or brighten the light a little bit, just to uh, just so it matches. You always want your shots to look, kind of believable from one shot to the next. So you definitely do have to adjust your lighting between different shots. But yeah, they definitely do change it.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so grateful to all that you've said to us today. We needed to hear it. This is our building block. Not only are we talked about camera and cinematography for the last 2 days, but now you've just kind of brought it on home with the imagery, with the lighting. We're very grateful to you. You're getting a lot of thank yous and hand claps in the general chat. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. All right, Isaac, thank you so much. I'll be in touch, and we'll definitely be inviting you to our showcase so you can come and see all the amazing lighting.
Yeah, I'd love to see what you guys are making. Thanks for listening to me. I hope you learned something. Awesome. Have a good one, everybody.
You too, Isaac. Bye. Okay, everybody, we're gonna go back to our tables, and we're gonna finish out the day with our teachers. You're gonna get your homework assignment. Make sure you do your homework. Okay, bye.